So here's a wild thought. What if you could conquer an entire country not with armies or weapons, but with just a map? It sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, right? Well, that's the really provocative question at the heart of one of the 20th century's most powerful plays, Brian Friel's Translations. And today, we're going to dig in and explore how that might actually be possible.
I mean, really think about that for a second. A conquest fought not with steel, but with ink and paper. A war waged over the names of rivers, hills, and little towns. Brian Friel's 1980 masterpiece Translations makes this compelling case that this isn't just some hypothetical idea. It's a historical reality. And this play is going to be our guide to understanding this really subtle, really sneaky form of power. Okay, so we've got a bit of a mystery on our hands. How can just changing a name on a piece of paper actually change the course of a nation? To unravel this, first we need to get our heads around a very clever trick the playwright, Friel, uses to pull us right into this world of, well, linguistic conflict.
And here's the genius of it. It's called the language paradox. Now get this. While we, the audience, hear every single character speaking English, on stage, they're actually supposed to be speaking different languages, Irish and English. And the key is, they often can't understand each other at all. This creates this incredible dramatic irony, right? And it immediately forces us to pay attention to the theme of miscommunication.
And that's what this is really all about. It's not about being bilingual. It's about this deep, massive gap between the words people say and what's actually understood, on a cultural and emotional level. The whole play is basically a story about the failure of language.
All right, so to really see this failure of language in action, we need to jump in our time machine and go back to a really pivotal moment in Irish history, a moment of massive cultural collision. We land in a place called Ballybeg, a fictional village in County Donegal. The year is 1833. This is an Irish-speaking community totally steeped in its own traditions and history, but it is standing right on the edge of a cliff, about to be hit by this huge wave of irreversible change.
And it's not just one thing hitting them. It's a perfect storm. First, you've got the British Army's Ordnance Survey showing up to map the entire country. It looks like a scientific project, all very official. At the exact same time, a new national school system is being rolled out, and these schools will only teach in English, which means the old hedge schools, the real heart of traditional Irish learning, are pretty much about to go extinct. It's like a three-pronged attack on an entire way of life. And this is where our mystery really starts to unravel. Because in this specific situation, the seemingly harmless act of translation becomes something much, much more aggressive. It actually becomes a form of invasion. This is the absolute heart of the matter. The play shows us that language is never neutral. It's a tool. It's a tool that can be used to reshape who you are, to enforce control, and to inflict this profound sense of cultural loss. Let's see exactly how this works. The original Irish name for the village is Ballybeg. It literally means small town. It describes the place, it has meaning. The English mapmakers come in and change it to Ballybeg. Now, it sounds kind of similar, but the meaning? It's gone. It's just a sound now, a phonetic shell that's been totally stripped of its history. And this process of erasure just keeps going with all the local landmarks. A place called Dwim Dubh, which means Black Ridge, a name that comes from the land itself, is anglicized to Drum Duff. And with every one of these seemingly tiny changes, another piece of the community's collective memory is just systematically wiped off the map. This is the play's most shocking revelation. The very thing that's supposed to build bridges and create understanding, translation, is weaponized. It becomes a bureaucratic tool for cultural erasure, hiding its violence behind this mask of, administrative progress. But this isn't just some abstract historical event. This cultural crisis has a very real human cost. So let's meet the people of Ballybeg, the ones who are actually caught in the crossfire of this linguistic war. At the center of it all are the people, and each one of them represents a different way of dealing with this crisis. You've got Hugh, the traditionalist schoolmaster who clings to the old ways, even though he knows they're fading. His son, Owen, is the collaborator. At first, he thinks this whole translation project is just a practical job, but then he wakes up to the horror of what he's actually doing. Manus is the resistor, fiercely loyal to his Irish heritage. Then there's Mireille, the pragmatist. She sees English as a ticket to a better future, a way out of poverty. And finally, there's Yolande, the romantic English soldier who falls in love with the idea of Ireland, but is completely blind to how destructive his own culture's presence really is. You see?
Every one of them embodies a different choice you could make in this situation. Do you hold on to tradition? Do you resist? Do you adapt to survive? Do you collaborate? The play doesn't give you any easy answers. It just shows you the heartbreaking complexity of it all. So, what's the big takeaway from this story about a tiny Irish village back in 1833? Well, the play's central message echoes way beyond its own time and place, and it's this: language is never neutral. Translations shows us a really profound truth. Our language is our history. It tells us that colonialism isn't always about soldiers and guns. It can be bureaucratic, fought by surveyors and school teachers. It shows how power can operate quietly through things that seem totally neutral, like making maps or naming schools. And maybe most importantly, that the erasure of an entire culture can happen, not with a loud bang, but with the quiet stroke of a pen. In the end, what Friel's play proves so powerfully is that the words we use to describe our world, they aren't just passive labels. They're active, they're contested. They are battlegrounds where the fight for meaning, for identity, and for memory is won and lost every single day. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. Take a look at the names of the streets and towns where you live. Think about the words you use every day, and maybe the ones you don't. How does the language you hear and speak, day in and day out, actually shape, control, and ultimately define your world?